So it's interesting. I think the first thing to know is that the concept of a mentor is something that people, no matter whether it's true or not, they believe it matters. And so around 80% of people, when you ask them, they believe is having a mentor is critical for success in their lives and their career. So people believe it. Yet on the other side, it's really interesting. Like less than a third of people have a mentor. So there's this disconnect, right? Like people know it's important or they believe it's important, and yet they don't have one. And so for me, this actually started out originally as a bit of a personal quest. I was in between sort of, just left a company that had exited that I started and I was moving into something else. And I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do next. So I teach at Georgetown and I just said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to do a bunch of mentoring and do whatever it was. So it was funny enough. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and he was asking me what was I doing, and I told him like, well, I'm going to do some mentoring, and he literally turned in kind of a very offhanded way, and he said, "Do you know if you're any good at it?" And I thought, like, "Am I good at mentoring?" Like, I never thought about it, right? But I said, "Well, of course, right? Like, people want to talk to me about it, so therefore I must be good, right?" Kind of this interesting way. But the truth is it sort of stuck with me. I kept thinking about it as like, "Am I good at mentoring?" And so I thought a lot about it. I was like, "Well, I should figure out if I'm any good at mentoring, right? People coming to me for advice and mentorship, but am I any good?" So I decided to run this little experiment. And I said, all right, for the next, 3, 4 months, anyone who wants to meet with me about anything mentoring related, about their lives, about their startup, about their business, their career, I'll take it. And I'll do the meeting and I'll do a great meeting. And then what I was going to do to figure out if I was any good is when I would give them advice, I would give them a little homework of what to go do with this advice and then told them to come back and tell me what they learned. So this is what my goal was. So over those next 4 months, I did 81 meetings with people. It was a first kind of mentoring meeting. And on every one of them, at the end of it, I prepared for it. I thought about it. I was really, really intentional about how I could help them. I said, all right, now go and blank, whatever this blank was, do something. And then I'm happy to do a follow-up meeting when I hear how it went, what you learned, what those things were. And then I waited. And after 6 months later, I looked and I said, let me look to see how I did. And I was shocked. Of those 81 meetings, zero of them came back for a follow-up meeting. And I thought to
Mm.
myself, like, I'm the worst mentor in the world. Like, literally, I'm the worst mentor. And what it got me thinking about is like, why? What was going on behind it? And I started to kind of like unpack this one. And once I had this insight, I said, I've got to figure out what it takes to become an exceptional mentor. I want to be a better mentor to people. So I went and started studying people, and I studied hundreds and hundreds of the world's best successful people, the Steve Jobs, the Sheryl Sandbergs, Elon, everyone that I could find to learn about their mentoring experiences. And tried to understand what was the process that they went through to basically unlock the power of mentorship. And I realized something very, very staggering from that research is that most of us think that mentoring is about getting advice to help us make decisions. Here's what your advice is. Truth of the matter is that we don't need more advice. There's amazing pockets of advice out there on the internet, on YouTube, on podcasts like yours. The reality is what we need from mentors is opportunities. And once I started to get into it, I realized that it's not anymore about giving this smart person saying, here's what you should do. Instead, it's that person who opens a door for us. They give us an opportunity. They move our resume to the stack. They make an introduction. And really, like modern mentorship is not about advice, it's about opportunities. And when you start to realize that's what's going on, you see things differently. So, yes, 80% of people believe mentors are important because they think that that person is going to open that door, help them get that introduction to that investor, whatever it is. But the reason that so few people have them is they have a first meeting with a mentor like me, and it doesn't undo that. It's just advice telling you what to do. And so we drop it. And that's where I saw like there's a disconnect out there, and it started to say, how could we redefine mentorship? And what it is you don't need a mentor. You want this person that we call the super mentor. And I've been fortunate to have 6 of them in my life at least. And that's what it is. So modern approach to mentorship is very different. And I think, quite frankly, it's very, very powerful. Like all these hyper successful people have mentors, but they don't really have a mentor. They have a super mentor, and understanding how to unlock that is the key.